Hi, everybody. Welcome to the History of New Media Art. I'm your instructor, Jackie Gleisner, and today we are going to be taking a closer look at the ways that artists have used video to explore the concept of identity. From politics to poetry, we've been examining various themes within the genre of video art, and today's lecture will actually be the last one focusing on video exclusively. As a reminder from the previous lecture, we looked at how artists have woven dreamy and poetic imagery into their videos. One artist we returned to during the last presentation was Bill Viola. It's important to remember that when Viola first picked up the video camera as a freshman in art school, it was not a popular medium. By the 1970s, more artists had begun to embrace the malleability of video, but it was still seen as somewhat obscure. Throughout the past several lectures, we have been categorizing different themes within video art as a way to understand how video can be transformed to serve different purposes, with Viola's work reappearing among a few different topics. The slow-moving bodies of the work shown here, called stations, relate to the poetic emphasis of the previous lecture. As a meditation on the Stations of the Cross, this work contains imagery that is generic enough to reach a broad audience. And indeed, one of the strengths of Viola's artistic output has been his ability to reach a mainstream crowd. Turning now to the concept of identity, let's take a quick look at an example of an installation that grapples with this topic that does not involve video. Identity is the way that we perceive ourselves, and these days there may be many conflicting ways of viewing a single person. Race, gender, class, ethnicity, and sexuality are but a few of the different factors that contribute to one's identity. By looking at how an artist approaches this idea of identity using a different medium, we can then create more connections between the concept and how artists use specific media. This is Seoul Home, LA Home from 1999 by the artist Do Ho Suh. It is about the wandering life of an artist. This work touches on themes of homesickness for this contemporary artist and the migratory nature of present-day life for many people. This home is a silk replica of the traditional Korean home that the artist's father had built for their family. Moreover, the work embodies the Korean practice of, quote, walking the house, end quote, meaning that the structure is taken apart and travels with the family when they relocate. The house is personal to the Korean-born artist, and it also carries the symbolic weight of the itinerant identity he has honed as an artist. Let's see one more example by the American artist Glenn Ligon. These are two lithographs from the series entitled Runaways. The series is based on advertisements placed by slave owners to locate enslaved people who had run away. Using descriptions of Ligon drafted by his friends, he placed the text next to images from the original newspapers. The work shows how others defined his identity, as well as how identity is linked to cultural and personal biases. And here's the text of the two lithographs. Ran away, Glenn, a black man, 5'8", very short haircut, nearly completely shaved, stocky build, 155 to 165 pounds, medium complexion, not light-skinned, not dark-skinned, slightly orange. Wearing faded blue jeans, short-sleeve, button-down 50s-style shirt, nice glasses. Small, oval-shaped, no socks. Very articulate, seemingly well-educated, does not look at you straight in the eye when talking to you. He's socially very adept, yet, paradoxically, he's somewhat of a loner. Ran away. A man named Glenn, 5'8" high, medium brown skin, black framed, semi-cat-eyed glasses, close cropped hair, gray shirt, watch on left hand, black shorts, black socks, and black shoes. Distinguished looking. With these two contrasting takes on the big topic of identity in mind, let's now resume our conversation about video work. We know from previous lectures that many single-channel video artists such as Joan Jonas, Vito Acconci, Hannah Wilke and Dara Birnbaum have used video to explore notions of selfhood and identity. Video installation artists naturally explored the same theme using more immersive environments. The installation environment allows for greater participation of the viewer, and in many cases, the viewer actually enters the artwork literally. This merging of the viewer and the viewed was a very important facet for exploring identity, collapsing the boundaries that reflect the influence of Freud and Lacan, who were both dominant theorists for artists in the 1970s. As technology improves, video installations have become closer to theater for some. The Australian artist Tracy Moffat summarizes the topic of today's lecture when she stated, "I am not concerned with verisimilitude. I am not concerned with capturing reality. I'm concerned with creating it myself." The works we will look at today do not always relate to contemporary events or larger societal concerns, but sometimes they do. Rather, these videos are more closely linked to how a person is formed, either through one's own agency or by others. The first artist we will look at related to the theme of identity is Adrian Piper. We're looking at her self-portrait as a nice white lady from 1995. The title is sarcastic. Piper is a fair-skinned black artist who often addresses racial politics in her work. She holds a PhD in philosophy, which informs the theoretical nature of some of her pieces. For example, her calling cards from 1988-1999 was a series of notes with text such as, "Dear friend, I am black. I'm sure you did not realize this when you made, laughed at, agreed with that racist remark. I regret any discomfort my presence is causing you, just as I am sure you regret the discomfort your racism is causing me." Her video, What It's Like, What It Is, from 1991, included a white vertical box that showed a black man's head from different angles. Viewers were seated on the bleachers inside the room while the man said things like, "I'm not lazy, I'm not vulgar, I'm not horny," to confront racial slurs. In this case, Piper is thinking about how a person's identity can be negatively swayed and formed by bias. Another work by Piper, Out of the Corner from 1997, was made of 17 video monitors, photographs, and overturned chairs. Talking heads on the monitors directly challenged the audience. Surrounding the video installation were 64 small black and white portrait photographs of black women from a range of different social backgrounds that Adrian Piper had rephotographed from Ebony magazine. Meanwhile, Piper delivered a 17-minute-long lecture about miscegenation, or the inbreeding of people believed to be from different races. In doing so, Piper invited viewers to consider how race and racism can be analyzed and potentially even overcome through reason. Next, we will look at a work by the Turkish artist Kutlug Ataman. Stefan's Room by Ataman was a peek inside the world of a fictional character. 5 screens were suspended from the ceiling, some with one edge pointed near the floor, some positioned on a diagonal. The artist described the juxtapositions as central to the depiction of the subject, Stefan, a Berlin man obsessed with moths. Stefan has 30,000 moths in his small apartment, and this level of obsession points to an isolated schizoid personality, as he was living among this mammoth collection of dead specimens. Here's an installation view of Stefan's room. You can see that the installation with the slanting screens overhead contributes to the feeling of being inside the person who has become imprisoned by his obsession. Now let's look at the American artist Matthew Barney. Barney is an extremely well-known video artist who gained worldwide attention for his surrealistic explorations of male identity that defied traditional boundaries. Geography, biology, geology, and mythology are some additional themes that are explored in other works. Please watch the video segment from the Art21 page linked here. In Field Dressing from 1989, Barney scaled the walls of his studio while he was naked. The video contains allusions to the private studio performances of Vito Acconci and Bruce Nauman that we have viewed in a prior lecture. In 1994, Barney started working on the Cremaster series. The series is a full-color, large-scale production with elaborate costumes worn by fairies, satyrs, and other creatures that probe Barney's interest in body parts, heterosexual/homosexual relations, athletics, and alchemy. The cremaster is a thin, suspensory muscle of the testicles. There's a link at the bottom of this page for you to watch the trailer for the film. You can see from these stills that the imagery is wildly fantastical. Barney often worked on his projects over many years, and in fact he worked on the Cremaster cycle from 1994 until 2002. There are 5 feature-length films in the series. Taken as a whole, they explore the process of creation, though Barney's narratives are often non-linear, and they can be quite difficult to follow. The production designer for Cremasters 1, 2, 3, and 5, Matthew D. Ryle, explained, quote, "Anyone can have an intimate relationship with the Cremaster films or the sculptures. Anyone can access them from any point, from fashion, horror movies, architecture, drawing, photography, football, plastics, or just storytelling. The whole project is so porous, there are a million different ways to enter it," end quote. The films were created out of sequence. Barney began by working on the 4th film in the series. He challenges the dualism of male-female as he constructs a world that is unlike any other. Photographs and other ephemera were shown alongside videos in an exhibition of the series at the Guggenheim Museum in New York City in 2003. Now let's look at Dummtype, a collaborative group formed in 1984. Its members were students at Kyoto University of the Arts, and Dummtype did performances as well as installations. Their installations explored sexual and cultural identity, and they were related to the practice of dance and theory. Lovers from 1994 was a computer-controlled 5-channel Laserdisc and sound installation with 5 naked men and women who move from wall to wall in a dance of missed connections. While on the wall, phrases appeared like, "Love is everywhere," and "Don't fuck with me, fella, use your imagination." Please watch the excerpt linked on this page. This work was made the year before Furuhashi's death from AIDS-related illness. For the artist, Lovers was a commentary on, quote, "the theme of contemporary love in an ultra-romantic way," end quote. Now let's take a look at the American artist Tony Oursler. Some of you may remember from last semester in Contemporary Art History that Oursler often explores multiple personality disorder, which according to Oursler is a part of the postmodern condition. This slide shows Untitled Eyes from 1996. It's an installation of 13 fiberglass balls with projections of a single eye on each one. One cries, one is red and swollen, one looks around the room. All the eyes reflect whatever they are watching, be that pornography, a movie about MPD, a video game, and more. Beginning in the 1970s, Oursler collaborated with Mike Kelly, another American artist. The Poetics Project provided a broad overview of 1970s culture, which was the point in time when both artists were emerging in California. The work was originally presented at Documenta in 1997, and it broadly examines how history is created by mapping the artist's interests and inspirations. The video offered viewers a first-hand experience of how their trajectories were charted. On this slide, there's a link to watch Amy Jenkins' video called Ebb. From the still on this page, you can see that the projected image of a blood-clouded water fills a miniature tub into which a woman climbs, crossing the static boundaries of space and object. Slowly, one begins to notice the blood recede into her body, and the water clears. Bleeding every month is a defining aspect of the female experience. Yet, in Ebb, there is a shocking twist. She is taking back her blood. She gathers up her womanhood, disallowing the pain of menstruation and its sacrificial implications. Rosemary Truckles Yavan from 1997 showed images of children playing, fibers of cloth unwinding, and shots of young girls skipping around the yard. These shots were spliced with images of a young woman covered in tarantulas. As you watch the film linked on this page, consider how Truckle's imagery contributes to her ideas of selfhood. The Scottish teams Stephanie Smith and Edward Stewart examine relationships between the sexes in their installations, as you can glean from the still of the video titled Intercourse from 1995 on this page. Issues of domination, submission, violence, and desire are likewise explored in other films as well. Next, we're going to look at Steve McQueen, the British director, screenwriter, and artist. Please watch the short video interview linked on this page. In it, McQueen talks about his early career and what attracted him to video before he began feature-length films such as Hunger from 2008, Shame from 2011, and 12 Years a Slave from 2013. In Bear from 1993, two naked men, one of which is McQueen, are boxing. The video is equally playful and aggressive. This early film was also ambiguous. There's no sound, and it was shot in black and white. McQueen was later awarded the prestigious Turner Prize in 1999. Then, a few years later, he described feeling bored with the art world and began making more ambitious feature-length films. To close this lecture, please watch Rodney Graham's Vexation Island. The video was created for the Canadian Pavilion at the Venice Biennale in 1997. Over the course of 9 minutes, Graham retells the Robinson Crusoe story in an updated way. We're going to summarize some of the major themes that have surfaced over the past several lectures on the next 2 slides as we finish today. In the mid-1990s, digital cameras became more available to the average user. More sophisticated editing equipment, such as video editing systems like Avid, allowed artists to create works that were closer to cinema. Matthew Barney's works show the connection between movies and art videos. The Cremaster was often shown in a movie theater with a full-scale installation involving props and other related materials. We also saw how Steve McQueen eventually switched from making art videos into the role of feature-length films. Some artists revel in the cinematic links, while others preferred to leave their works within the context of a museum or more traditional art viewing spaces. Over the course of several lectures, we have been looking at video, dissecting this medium, and considering different lenses for thinking about the artists and their works. We know that artists started experimenting with video in earnest during the 1960s. The term single channel refers to works that involve a single electronic source, such as a DVD, presented on one playback device, such as a DVD player, and exhibited using a single display mode, such as a monitor or projection. Technology-based and variable, the single-channel video generated new practices and challenges for exhibitors. In the 4 decades since video was first screened in alternative spaces, single-channel works are now presented in venues ranging from galleries, museums, cinemas, classrooms, television, and the web to devices such as cell phones and iPods. Exhibition designs range from monitors, flat screens, and large-scale projections to inventive new modes for audience interaction and access. Artists continue to innovate both the medium as well as the ways that viewers interact with it up until the present. That's all for today's presentation. Thanks as always for watching, and I will see you soon.